The signal in the void. The stars above the ruined colony of Vela 9 were quiet, but below them, cries echoed through broken towers and empty streets. The Velara people had once lived in peace. A small farming race, they never built warships. They never learned to fight. They believed in peace, in talks, in trusting others. But peace didn't stop the Skarn. The Skarn came like shadows. Their ships appeared from dark space without warning. They didn't speak. They didn't demand. They only attacked. Buildings burned. Families scattered. Every defense fell in seconds. From the control tower, Elder Miro watched it all. He stood beside the last working console, his hands shaking as he activated the only hope they had left, a universal distress signal sent into every known sector. "Please," he said into the recorder, his voice broken. "We are not soldiers. We are not a threat. This is Vela 9. We need help. Anyone out there, please hear us." The signal pulsed into the void. He had no idea if it would be received. But he had no choice. Hours passed. The screams faded. The Skarn pulled back, leaving just enough survivors to remember. Miro lay down on the cold metal floor and closed his eyes. He didn't think help would ever come. Far across the stars, in Sector 12 of the Sol Alliance, the signal was received. A human technician named Adam sat at his desk on the space station Stonewatch. The message blinked once on his screen, then auto-translated. He stared at it. Distress signal detected. Vela 9. Civilian population. Hostile forces unknown. He paused, then forwarded it up the chain. Within minutes, alarms rang through the command level. Fleet Command reviewed the signal. Images from Vela 9 followed. Fires. Dead streets. Civilians running from towering alien mechs. It was real. A meeting was called. One voice was louder than the rest. Fleet Admiral Rayner. Her eyes were cold. Her words were sharp. "They called for help," she said. "And Earth does not ignore a cry for help." The orders were given. Across 4 sectors, Earth's war fleet was called into formation. Ships moved from patrol to strike ready. Massive carriers left orbit. Stealth destroyers darkened their lights. Battleships roared to life. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. This was judgment. Back on Vela 9, Miro was still alive. The Skarn had not returned, but the silence was worse. He walked through the empty streets, helping those who had survived. Most buildings were rubble. Their food stores were gone. Many wounded had no one left to care for them. A small girl tugged at his sleeve. "Is help coming?" she asked. Miro looked to the sky. "I hope so," he whispered. That night, as Vela 9 turned on its axis, the stars shifted and one flickered brighter than the rest. A single flash, then many. A long, dark shape crossed the horizon in silence, then another, then 100. The girl pointed upward, eyes wide. "Miro," she gasped, "the stars are moving." He followed her gaze, and for the first time in days, a tear rolled down his cheek. This one, not from sorrow. Hope had come, but what followed wasn't just rescue. It was fire. It was fury. It was Earth's war fleet, and they had not come in peace. Fire. From the stars, the sky above Vela 9 turned red. Hundreds of massive ships broke through the clouds, their hulls shining in the sunlight. The lead battleship, Horizon Lance, looked like a floating fortress, bristling with cannons, hangars, and thick armor. Velara survivors stepped out from hiding. They had never seen ships so large, so powerful. And they didn't know what to expect, then. The skies roared. Drop pods shot from the warships, streaking like falling stars. They landed in rows, opening with metallic hisses. Out came humans, soldiers in heavy armor, faces hidden behind dark visors, weapons in hand. They moved fast. Efficient. Silent. One human stepped forward, scanning the surroundings. "Area secure," he said into his comms. From above, Admiral Rayner watched it all from the command deck of Horizon Lance. "Phase 1 complete," her officer reported. She nodded. "Begin tracking Skarn positions." No survivors. The Skarn had not gone far. Their ships were hidden in the asteroid belt near Vela 9, waiting for reinforcements. They didn't expect retaliation. Especially not from humans they had underestimated. One of the Skarn scouts saw the human fleet from afar. Its red eyes widened in surprise. It turned to warn the rest, but before it could transmit, it was vaporized by a long-range rail cannon. Earth's war fleet didn't send warnings, they sent destruction. The humans had studied every image from Vela 9, the fires, the dead children, the broken towers. They didn't see war. They saw murder, and now, justice would be delivered. On the ground, Elder Miro approached the humans carefully. His steps were slow. His hands raised. A human soldier noticed him and stepped forward. He pressed a hand to his helmet, and the faceplate lifted. A young man with a calm face looked at Miro. You sent the signal, the soldier asked. Miro nodded. We are here now, the human said simply, but not just for us. Miro asked, glancing at the sky, which was still filled with dark ships. No, the soldier said. You're not alone anymore. Earth remembers its friends. That night, the humans set up camps. They brought medical aid, food, water, and technology. They used drones to help search for survivors. Engineers started repairing power systems, but above it all, Earth's fleet was still preparing for war. In orbit, Admiral Rayner stood before her officers. We have located 3 scan ships, the tech officer said, hiding among asteroid debris. They thought we wouldn't come, she replied. They thought Earth was still far, still soft. They were wrong. She turned to a weapons chief. Light them up. Minutes later, deep in the silence of space, beams of pure plasma shot across the void. The asteroids shattered like glass. Scan ships tried to flee, but the missiles followed. One by one, they exploded into clouds of fire and metal. No mercy. No hesitation. It wasn't just about revenge. It was a message. Earth had come. Earth had seen, and Earth would burn down the stars before letting more innocents die. Back on Vela 9, the small girl who had asked Miro about help was now sitting beside a human medic. He handed her a warm pack of food and smiled. You're safe now, he said. She looked up. Are you going to stay? The medic paused. We don't always stay, he said softly. But you'll never be forgotten again. She held the food tightly. Tell the stars, she whispered. Thank you. The medic smiled, not with words, but with something deeper. A quiet respect. A shared understanding. The war wasn't over, but now, the scar knew, if you hurt the weak, you call the storm. Earth's warning shot. The space above Vela 9 was still burning. Wreckage from the destroyed scan ships drifted silently, glowing with hot metal and broken systems. Earth's fleet didn't leave anything alive in that asteroid belt, but the real storm hadn't started yet. On horizon lines, Admiral Rayner stood before the holomap. It showed more scan movement, 4 large ships heading in system. They are responding, her officer said. Looks like a counterattack. Rayner didn't flinch. Let them come. She turned toward the comms officer. Open a direct channel to their fleet. There was a pause, static, then a connection. The alien voice came through, metallic and cold. This sector belongs to the scan. Earth has no claim. Rayner's reply was calm and slow. You attacked civilians. We claim justice. This is your only warning, the scan growled. Leave. Rayner narrowed her eyes. You attacked the helpless. You murdered without cause. There will be no second warning. Then she ended the call. She turned back to her fleet officers. Prepare all ships. We hold position at Vela 9. Let them come to us. On the planet's surface, Miro stood beside a group of Valari and watched the sky. More human soldiers were arriving. They moved like shadows, quiet, efficient, armed with gear no Valari could even name. They weren't just soldiers, they were trained for war zones across the galaxy. These were Death Welders, humans raised on the most dangerous planet in known space. Even the ground crews wore armor stronger than anything the scan had faced before. Miro turned to a nearby commander. Do you really think they'll come back? They always do, the human said without looking up. But this time, they won't leave. In deep space, the 4 scan warships approached in a tight diamond formation. Each one was the size of a city, each one had weapons powerful enough to glass a planet, and yet, none of them knew what Earth had become in the last decade. They didn't. No, Earth had built weapons not just to survive, but to end wars before they started. As the scan entered firing range, they powered up their weapons, launched the first volley. Their leader ordered. The ships lit up with red energy. Missiles launched. plasma beams streaked forward, but Earth was ready. From behind the shadow of Vela 9's moon, a second Earth fleet decloaked. Hidden ships that had been waiting, stealth bombers, heavy destroyers, and drone swarms all unleashed fire at once. The Scan never stood a chance. Their missiles were intercepted mid-flight, their plasma beams were blocked by shield fields. Then Earth answered. Railguns fired projectiles at hypersonic speeds, piercing through Scan armor like paper. One Scan ship exploded instantly, its core hit directly. The second tried to turn, but got split in two by an energy lance. The third sent out a surrender signal, but the humans ignored it. Only the fourth tried to escape. It didn't make it past the moon. Down on the planet, the sky lit up again, this time, brighter. Fireworks of war exploded in space, and the Volari gathered in silence, watching the stars rain sparks. The small girl stood with Miro. Again, are the monsters gone? She asked. Not yet, Miro whispered. But they are learning. Back on Horizon Lance, Admiral Rayner watched the aftermath. No celebration. No cheer, only silence. She knew better. This wasn't the end. She looked to her second-in-command. Send a message to Earth, she said. Vela 9 is to be placed under Earth's protection. We'll leave forces behind. Yes, Admiral. She walked to the viewing window. The stars were quiet again, but this time, they feared Earth, and that was exactly how it had to be. The message to the galaxy. News of the battle spread fast. Other colonies, neutral worlds, even former enemies watched with wide eyes as footage leaked from Vela 9. Videos of Earth's fleet destroying the Scan ships. Images of human soldiers helping wounded aliens. A message was sent, not by words, but by action. Earth had changed. They didn't just protect themselves anymore, they protected others, and when they responded, it wasn't with soft hands. It was with fire. In the center of the United Galactic Forum, a large chamber filled with leaders from hundreds of species, silence followed the broadcast. The council leader, a tall creature with crystal-like skin, spoke at last. Earth has acted without request or permission. He said. They acted because we didn't, someone else replied. Murmurs rose. 4 years, the Forum had tried to control conflict through politics and warnings. But it hadn't worked. The Scan had ignored rules. Innocent planets had been destroyed. And now, Earth had shown a different path. Swift justice. A silent vote followed. By the end of the day, dozens of smaller civilizations had sent private messages to Earth, not to protest, but to ask for protection. On Vela 9, recovery had started. Earth's engineers helped rebuild power stations. Medics treated the wounded. Drones delivered food and clean water. The Volari people were stunned by how fast the humans worked. Miro walked beside one of the lead human engineers, a man named Dale. You don't ask for anything in return, Miro said. Dale shrugged. You called for help. That's enough. But why? Miro asked. You could have ignored us. Most did. Dale paused and looked toward the sky. Because we were alone once too, he said. And no one came. In orbit, Admiral Rayner stood on the deck of Horizon Lance. A report was handed to her. Scan fleets were regrouping in a nearby system. Bigger ships. More forces. They hadn't learned. They were preparing for a full retaliation. Rayner didn't smile. She didn't speak. She turned to her officers. We end this before it begins. Earth's War Council agreed. A new operation was launched. Operation Hammerfall, not a defensive mission. A strike. The goal, find the Scan core fleet. Destroy it. Rayner was placed in full command. Across multiple systems, human fleets moved into position. Vela 9 became a forward base. The small, peaceful farming world was now protected by some of the deadliest ships in the galaxy. Humanity wasn't building an empire, they were building a shield, and anyone who raised a weapon against the weak would break themselves against it. That evening, Miro gave a small speech to his people. They gathered under the stars, sitting among broken statues and rebuilt homes. He raised his hands and spoke with a quiet, firm voice. Help came. Not from those we knew, but from those who heard. He looked at the human soldiers standing at the edges, silent and watchful. They didn't ask who we were. They didn't ask if we were rich or powerful. They only saw our pain. He paused, and when they came, they did not come softly. A hush fell over the crowd. Miro raised his hand toward the sky. They came with fire. The Volari clapped, not with joy, but with respect, because they had seen it too. They had seen what it meant when Earth answered a call for help. In the blackness of space, the Skarn prepared for war, but what they didn't know, what they could never understand, was this: humanity did not come to conquer, they came to protect, but if you forced them to fight, you would never forget the day they arrived. Entering the Lion's Den, the human war fleet didn't rest. While Vila 9 healed, Admiral Rayner prepared to carry the war to the enemy. The Skarn fleet had regrouped near the dark planet of Telvac, a shadowy world filled with metal clouds and orbiting wreckage. It was the Skarn's forward base. That's where Earth would strike. On Horizon Lance, the final briefing began. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what was at stake. Admiral Rayner stood before her fleet captains. A large star map floated in the air. "This is Telvac," she said. "The Skarn fleet is stationed here, over 24 ships. Heavily armed. No civilians." One of the captains leaned forward. "Any allies?" "None," Rayner answered. "They've burned every bridge. This is their last stronghold." Her eyes hardened. "We don't go there for conquest. We go to make sure no other world suffers like Vila 9 did." The room was silent. Then she said 3 words that lit the fire: "We end them." Within hours, Earth's fleet moved. Massive warships jumped through slip space. Smaller stealth ships went in first, scanning the system. Human AIS coordinated movement across fleets without a single delay. They were fast, precise, deadly. On the ground, Miro stood beside Dale and watched the sky again. "Will she return?" Miro asked. Dale looked up, knowing he couldn't lie. "I don't know," he said. "But if she doesn't, it won't be because she failed. It'll be because she made sure no one else had to." At the edge of the Telvac system, the human ships emerged from the void. The Skarn fleet was ready. Their weapons glowed. Their engines screamed. Their leader broadcast a message: "Turn back, Terrans. You cannot win." Admiral Rayner's voice was cold as ice. "We are not here to win." Her hand hovered over the console. "We are here to end it." The first shot came from a human stealth destroyer. A precision railgun burst through the enemy's left flank, slicing a Skarn frigate in 2. Explosions followed like falling dominoes. The Skarn responded with all their firepower. Plasma beams cut through space, missiles launched in waves, but the humans didn't back down. They pushed forward, shields glowing, guns firing non-stop. Drone swarms buzzed through the chaos, tearing into enemy engines. Command ships guided fighter wings like a dance, swift, exact, brutal. One by one, the Skarn fell. Even their flagship, Ravager of Suns, cracked under human bombardment. A direct strike from the Horizon Lance's main cannon split the Skarn core reactor. The ship folded in on itself, vanished in a burst of white-blue light. The battle lasted only 23 minutes. When it was done, only human ships remained. Admiral Rayner stood on the command deck, eyes on the burning wrecks. "Status?" she asked. "All targets destroyed." "Minimal losses," her officer said. "No survivors from the Skarn." Rayner took a deep breath. "It's done." And for the first time in years, the threat was gone. Back on Vila 9, the news arrived through broadcast. Miro stood before his people and read the message aloud. He didn't shout. He didn't cheer. He just looked at the sky and said, "They kept their word." The people of Vila 9 stood in silence, hand over heart. For the first time since the invasion, they felt safe, because someone had heard their cry, and that someone had answered with fire. The price of fire. The war was over. Skarn ships no longer flew. Their bases were ashes. Their leaders were gone, and yet, victory did not feel like celebration. Back on Horizon Lance, the crew walked with quiet steps. Repairs were being made. Damage reports were logged. Lives had been lost, fewer than expected, but enough to leave scars. Admiral Rayner stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. A junior officer approached her with a data pad. "Final report from Telvac." Confirmed, nothing left. Rayner didn't look away from the stars. "And Vila 9? Stable. Rebuilding continues. Volari citizens want to speak with you." She nodded slowly. "Set a course back," she said. "Let's go home." On Vila 9, time had changed everything. The broken buildings were rising again, this time with human steel and alien designs combined. The fields were growing. The rivers ran clean. And the survivors smiled more Often, the human presence remained, but they weren't conquerors. They were protectors, builders, friends. Miro waited near the landing pad as horizon lines descended, dust flew as the ramp lowered. Admiral Rayner stepped out, followed by a handful of officers. Her armor still bore the marks of war. She looked tired, but proud. Miro bowed his head slightly. You returned. I said I would, she replied. He nodded. And the Skarn? No longer a threat. There was a long silence between them, then Miro said, You brought fire. But you gave hope. Rayner's eyes softened. That's what Earth does now. Later that evening, a large gathering took place in the rebuilt town square. Valari elders stood side by side with human commanders. Children from both species ran through the crowd. Miro stood on a raised platform. He cleared his throat. This is not a speech of thanks, he began. This is a promise. He turned to Admiral Rayner, who stood quietly behind him. When we called for help, we didn't expect anyone to come. We were weak. We were forgotten. But Earth came not with empty words, but with strength. Cheers rose from the crowd. We are not just survivors now. We are part of something greater. A shield made of fire. And if another voice calls for help, he looked around the square, we will answer it together. Admiral Rayner stepped forward next. She spoke slowly. Many see humans as dangerous. And maybe we are. But we know pain. We know loss. We were once left to fight alone. She looked at the sky, and that's why we don't leave others to suffer. She glanced at the crowd. We are not building empires. We are building alliances. Not of flags, but of trust. Vila 9 is Earth's friend. And Earth protects its friends. That night, fires were lit, but not from war. Lanterns floated into the sky. Music played. Humans and Valari danced together under the stars. Children laughed. Old wounds faded. Rayner stood at the edge of the square, watching quietly. Dale walked over and handed her a cup of warm drink. Not bad for a death welder. He jerked. She smirked. We're not just made for war, she said. No, he replied, raising his cup. But when we fight, the galaxy never forgets. She tapped her cup to his. To the fire we carry. Above Vila 9, Earth's fleet stood watch, not as invaders, not as rulers, but as a reminder to the stars, if you cry for help, Earth will answer, and they will come not with silence, but with fire. A legacy of flame. Months passed. Vila 9 had changed, where once the streets were cracked and silent, now markets bustled. Where ruins once stood, new homes rose. Children no longer hid from shadows, they chased light, but some things remained. Earth's ships still orbited above, a constant shield in the sky. Patrols rotated, medics stayed, and builders taught the Valari how to shape steel the Terran way, and deep in the stars, their story spread. Across distant systems, whispers grew louder. They cried for help, and Earth came. They brought warships. They brought vengeance. They answered with fire. Planets that once feared humanity now sent envoys, not to beg, but to join. A new alliance was being born, an alliance of the forgotten, the weak, the hunted. And the Terrans who refused to let evil grow in silence. They called it the Fire Pact, not a government. Not a rule. A promise. Back on Vila 9, Miro stood at the edge of the rebuilt city. He wore a long coat gifted by a human captain, and his once weary eyes now held strength. Beside him stood Admiral Rayner, who had returned for a ceremony that would mark the beginning of a new order. It feels strange, Miro said. To go from helpless to guarded by the strongest fleet in the stars. Rayner smiled slightly. You earned it. The strong don't just fight. They protect. He looked to her. And now? Now, we prepare the others, she said. More cries are coming. You won't be the last. In the distance, a tower was being completed. At the top, a beacon was placed, one that could send emergency signals across the nearest 10 systems. This time, it wasn't for Vila-9. It was for the next planet in danger, because the people of Vila 9 had chosen to pass it forward. They wouldn't only be protected, they would protect. That night, a monument was unveiled. It was made from the melted wreckage of a Skarn warship, twisted into a sculpture of two hands, one Valari, one human, grasping a single torch. Below it, words were etched in 3 languages. We cried. They came. Now. We stand together. Children gathered around it. Tourists took pictures. But older survivors simply touched it with quiet respect, because they remembered the day fire came not to destroy them, but to shield them. Far above, in the cold silence of space, horizon lines stood ready. Admiral Rayner returned to her post, watching systems flicker across the ship's glowing map point. One of her officers stepped forward. New signal detected. Another colony in distress. Location, Darun 5. Rayner looked up, set course. Full fleet. She nodded, full fleet. As the stars shifted once more, and engines lit up like twin suns, Earth's war fleet moved forward, not to conquer, not to claim, but to defend what was right. And across the galaxy, every world heard the stories. When the helpless called, Earth answered. And they brought the storm. Asterisk.